The investment philosophy of ARK Invest is truly unique in its form. ARK Invest is a firm believer in Wright's law rather than the traditional measurement Moore's law. Moore's law states that the number of transistors on a chip would double every 2 years, which implies that technology costs decline by half every 2 years. In simple terms, Moore's law states that the cost of technology will halve every 2 years. On the other hand, Wright's law, which ARK Invest believes is more accurate, claims that for every cumulative doubling of the units produced, costs fall by a constant percentage. This law is essentially stating that with a higher scale of production, the cost per unit will fall. This doesn't imply that costs will go to zero, but rather that costs will decline dramatically. Moore's law has been inaccurate because it compared costs with a set time frame, which is very hard to measure against over extended periods of time. On the other hand, Wright's law uses production volume, which is seen as a much more accurate variable. This is what ARK Invest embodies in its investment decisions, which is what they believe will drive innovation forward and also provide them with hidden investment opportunities. An article written by Sam Korus, an analyst at ARK Invest, states that Wright's law correctly predicted the decline of auto production costs for over 100 years. This was proven when he showed the average price of the Model T. As the number of Model T units were produced, the cost declined on average about 15%. This was also seen with the Tesla Model 3, which you can see with this graph. And unlike Moore's law, which requires that innovation and demand have to be a constant increase for 2 years, Wright's law is much more feasible. They also believe that Wright's law applies to many industries, and that the genomics sector will be the next sector to demonstrate this. If we take a look at this table, we can see that costs have dropped substantially. This is with the introduction of new technology, which in this case is CRISPR technology. Furthermore, ARK Invest continues to see Wright's law come into play. This is because of the logarithmic-like growth of the genome sequencing market. And as Wright's law states, as cumulative production doubles, costs will decrease by a constant percentage. They believe that from 2.6 million genomes in 2019, we will see 105 million genomes sequenced in 2024. With the ARK Genomic Revolution ETF, Cathie Wood and ARK Invest will do their best to capture this market by investing in what they believe will be the dominant leaders in genomic sequencing. However, this will not be entirely genome stocks, as they are only a subcategory of DNA sequencing in general. Now, let's take a look at the top holdings of the ARKG portfolio and what they do. ARK Invest's largest holding in its genomics ETF is easily Pacific Biosciences. Pacific Biosciences develops and manufactures gene sequencing systems. Their main technology system allows them to read gene sequencing at an extremely fast rate and very accurately. This technology is called SMRT sequencing, or single molecule real-time sequencing. What Pacific Biosciences is able to do is that when the primer, the matching nucleotides with the existing DNA or RNA, is moving through, a beam of light is emitted that scans the connection. The amount of light that is emitted shows what letter of the DNA is read. Just for a quick review, those letters are A, C, G, and T, or adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. These base pairs, A, C, G, and T, can be quickly read by Pacific Biosciences so that users can quickly and conveniently see the sequence of the DNA that is being read. With such a large sector opening up, it's no surprise that Pacific Biosciences has competitors. Out of all of the competitors out there, the largest one is Illumina. About 1 month ago, Cathie Wood actually sold all of her stock in Illumina for a few main reasons. Illumina focuses on reading short DNA sequences, whereas Pacific Biosciences specializes in reading both short and long sequences. This is all done with a method named CCS. Wenger, the principal scientist of Pacific Biosciences, believes that Pacific's CCS method matches or exceeds the ability of short-read sequencing to detect small variants and structural variants. Wenger's words were truly backed up when Pacific Biosciences was more accurate than Illumina and Oxford Nanopore. This competition showed that Pacific Biosciences was now the industry leader, and because of that, Cathie Wood believes that Pacific Biosciences is set to take the majority of the market share in gene sequencing. Analysts estimate that the market for gene sequencing will grow at an average rate of 11.7% every year over the next 7 years, which clearly shows that this sector will compound at a fast rate. ARK Invest believes that Pacific Biosciences will be at the forefront of this growing market. The stock is already up over 300% in the past year due to the fact that it's been taking market share from Illumina. Although the stock price is high, the company is expected to have its revenue grow 75% in 2021, and long term, the company does have a lot of potential. Personally, I would only purchase the stock with the intent of holding it for 5 to 10 years, as that is when the valuation will become worth it. CRISPR Therapeutics is ARK Invest's second largest position in the ARK Genomics portfolio, and it's that large for a reason. In the simplest form, CRISPR is a technology that can be used to edit genes. The technology searches for a specific portion of DNA inside a cell and alters that portion of the DNA. To simplify that, CRISPR allows you to edit your DNA. Now that isn't the only thing CRISPR can do. CRISPR technology has been developed to be able to turn genes on or off without altering people's DNA sequence. Before CRISPR was unveiled in 2012, editing plant and animal genomes was actually possible. However, the process took many years and cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. CRISPR has revolutionized this by making genome editing cheap and easy to do. As I mentioned earlier, this technology has now been transitioning to human trials. One of these trials includes sickle cell disease. Sickle cell disease is caused by a mutation in a gene called the hemoglobin beta gene. It affects over 100,000 people in the US and makes a protein that creates deformed blood cells. These deformed blood cells are sickle-shaped, hard and sticky, and don't carry oxygen normally. CRISPR looks to tackle this disease and has actually had successful human trials so far. In 2019, Victoria Gray became the first patient to receive treatment for sickle cell disease. The preliminary data has been fascinating. 4 months after receiving treatment, Gray already had 94.7% of her red blood cells containing the edited protein. Of course, it will take much more research after the initial trials, and CRISPR will be doing much more tests with a larger sample size with the same close monitoring. In addition to sickle cell disease, similar trials are taking place to treat other genetic disorders such as cancer and impaired vision. From an investing perspective, CRISPR's technology definitely has a lot of potential, but that potential comes with a lot of volatility. If you're in for the long term, however, then CRISPR will be quite an appealing investment. The approach of editing genes makes a lot of sense from a biological perspective. The market for gene editing is expected to grow 17% per year for the next 5 years, and CRISPR is set to become the leading innovator in this field. CRISPR stock is up 155% in the past 12 months, and it's for a pretty good reason. As a business, the company is set to grow exponentially with the ramp up of its technology. In fact, in 2021, CRISPR sales are expected to grow over 400%, which is definitely a significant amount. Teladoc Health is a business that has been greatly impacted by the pandemic. Many of you may have even tried Teladoc services during these times. Teladoc is the first and largest provider of online doctor appointments. Without insurance, each Teladoc meeting costs $75 per visit. However, with insurance, this cost can go as low as $0 per visit depending on your insurance benefits. Now, Teladoc's business goes beyond doctor appointments. In January of 2020, Teladoc acquired InTouch Health, a company that provides telehealth solutions for hospitals. The vision of Teladoc is to get into the entire telehealth market. This creates an enticing long-term investment opportunity. From 2020 to 2027, the telehealth market is expected to grow 15.1% per year, and because of that, it's no surprise that ARK Invest is invested in the leader of telehealth, which is Teladoc. Out of all of the stocks on this list, Teladoc is definitely one of the stocks that isn't as highly valued. The company is estimated to have its sales grow 80% in 2021 and has a price to sales ratio of 17. The company hasn't been able to make profits yet due to increased advertising, acquisition, and research and development expenses. Nevertheless, because Teladoc has a gross margin consistently in between 30 to 40%, it is evidence that profitability is coming. However, Teladoc's management is definitely focused on growth over profits, which is a positive sign for a growth stock like Teladoc. Overall, in my opinion, Teladoc is a pretty enticing long-term investment, and it's easy to understand why. Twist Biosciences is an extremely interesting company both from a biological and investment standpoint. Twist focuses on creating synthetic DNA, also known as DNA printing. Imagine being able to create DNA from the ground up with your own DNA sequence. Through DNA synthesis, scientists will be able to discover new therapies at a low price, create new self-fertilizing plants, and generate more sustainable chemicals and biomaterials. In fact, Twist Biosciences was actually able to write the instructions for creating Rona tests and ended up sending those instructions to testing companies. In 2020, the market for synthetic biology was estimated to be $6.8 billion. By 2025, analysts estimate that this market will be worth $20 billion. This is equivalent to an annual growth rate of 23.9% every year, which is definitely not something to overlook. Twist Biosciences will be at the forefront of this sector, but it definitely comes at a cost. Twist is already up over 500% in the past year. So there you have it, the top 4 holdings of the ARKG portfolio. What do you think about ARK Invest's portfolio in the genomic space and ARK Invest in general? Also, there are other investments that I didn't go into, so if you'd like to see a part 2, leave it in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.